Why have you never told me about him? Or about Nyota? Mama Zuri handed the photograph back, her expression unreadable. Some stories are better left untold, child. They can do more harm than good. Kamara had always known there was more to her grandmother, Mama Zuri, than met the eye. She was a quiet woman, known in Umoja for her skillful basket weaving and calming presence. Her songs, old and filled with longing, floated through the air as she worked, though no one dared to ask where they came from. There were moments, however, when her laughter faded, replaced by a distant look in her deep brown eyes. Kamara often wondered what memories lingered behind that silence. It was on one particularly hot afternoon, while chasing her mischievous cat, Nala, that Kamara stumbled upon something unexpected. Nala darted into the attic, a place Kamara had rarely ventured. She climbed the creaking ladder, brushing away cobwebs as she reached the dimly lit space. The attic was a world of forgotten things, its air thick with the smell of dust and aged wood. In the far corner, half buried under cloth sacks, Kamara noticed a trunk. Its cracked leather surface and tarnished brass corners stood out against the dull backdrop of the attic. A rusty padlock hung on its latch, but it snapped open with surprising ease. Kamara hesitated for a moment before lifting the lid, which creaked as though resisting her curiosity. Inside, she found yellowed letters tied with a faded red ribbon, sepia-toned photographs of unfamiliar faces, and an envelope containing a single note. The note read, "Be careful, the same mistakes can be repeated." A shiver ran through Kamara. The words felt ominous, as though they were written for her specifically. Her fingers brushed against the letters, and an overwhelming sense of curiosity filled her. She couldn't resist. Carefully, she gathered the letters and photographs, carrying them back to her room as though she had discovered a treasure. And a curse. Long after the household had settled into sleep, Kamara sat cross-legged on the floor of her room, a lantern casting flickering shadows on the walls. The letters, fragile and aged, were bundled neatly in her lap. Each envelope was addressed to Amara, a name Kamara had never heard her grandmother mention. She opened the first letter, her hands trembling slightly. "Dearest Amara, the dry season stretches on, leaving Nyota parched and broken. The whispers of unrest grow louder, but it is your love that keeps me grounded. It is for you that I fight." Kamara's breath caught. Nyota was not a Moja, but the descriptions of red earth, baobab trees, and villagers struggling to survive felt vivid and real. The writer of the letter, a man named Kwesi, spoke of protecting Nyota from the threat of bandits, who grew bolder as the famine deepened. The words were filled with both hope and fear, and something else. Love. Kamara could feel the strength of Kwesi's emotions through the page, his determination to protect Amara and the village they both called home. As Kamara continued reading, she uncovered more about Kwesi. He was brave, passionate, and deeply committed to his cause. But there was a darkness creeping through his letters, hints of betrayal and danger that felt like the prelude to a storm. One letter made Kamara's chest tighten. "I have gathered a group of men to stand against the bandits. We may be few, but we have our will. Pray for us, Amara. Pray that we find the strength to protect all we hold dear." She set the letter down, her mind swirling. Who was Kwesi? And why had Mama Zuri never mentioned Nyota or Amara? The more Kamara read, the more she felt the weight of a story that had been buried for decades. She knew she had uncovered the beginning of something far larger than she could yet understand. The next morning, Kamara found Mama Zuri under the shade of her favourite baobab tree, weaving a basket with her usual precision. The cool breeze did little to mask the intensity of the questions swirling in Kamara's mind. She approached carefully, the letters clutched tightly in her hand. "Mama Zuri." Kamara began, her voice hesitant. "Did you ever live in a village called Nyota?" Mama Zuri's hands paused mid-weave, the palm fronds slipping through her fingers. She looked up slowly, her expression unreadable. "Nyota is a name I have not heard in many years," she said finally, her voice low and steady. Kamara pressed on, emboldened by the slight crack in her grandmother's usual silence. "I found letters in the attic. They talk about Nyota, about a man named Kwesi." At the mention of his name, Mama Zuri's face changed. Her sharp eyes softened, but there was a shadow of pain behind them. She sighed deeply, setting the unfinished basket aside. "Kwesi was someone I once knew," she said, her voice heavy with emotion. "A brave man, perhaps the bravest I have ever known. But that was a long time ago." Kamara's heart raced. She had never seen Mama Zuri so vulnerable, and yet the answers she sought remained just out of reach. "Why haven't you ever spoken about him?" she asked gently. Mama Zuri's gaze drifted toward the horizon. "Some memories are too painful to revisit," she said, "but they have a way of finding you, even when you try to leave them behind." Kamara wanted to ask more, but the distant look in Mama Zuri's eyes told her it wasn't the right time. She left the letters in her room, but the questions lingered, demanding answers. Who was Kwesi? What had happened in Nyota? And why did Mama Zuri seem haunted by a past she refused to share? Kamara knew she couldn't stop now. Whatever secrets her grandmother carried, she was determined to uncover them, even if it meant digging deeper into the shadows of the past. That night, Kamara returned to her room and carefully spread the contents of the trunk across her bed. Among the letters, she found a small, faded photograph tucked inside an envelope. It showed a young woman who bore a striking resemblance to Mama Zuri. Her almond-shaped eyes and high cheekbones were unmistakable. The woman stood next to a tall man, his broad shoulders and confident posture impossible to ignore. His smile was faint but warm, and his eyes seemed alive with determination. On the back of the photograph, in handwriting that matched the letters, were the words, "Nyota Village, 1953. Kamara's breath caught. The man had to be Kwesi, and the young woman. Was that Mama Zuri? She traced her fingers over the photograph, her thoughts racing. Why had her grandmother never spoken of this place, or this man? And why did the note she found feel like a warning? The next morning, Kamara couldn't hold back her questions any longer. She found Mama Zuri outside their home, kneeling in her small garden, planting herbs. She hesitated, holding the photograph tightly in her hand. "Mama Zuri," she began, her voice soft but insistent. "Who is this man?" Mama Zuri looked up, her hands covered in soil. Her eyes locked onto the photograph, and for a moment, Kamara thought she saw a flicker of sadness, and perhaps fear. Slowly, Mama Zuri wiped her hands on her apron and took the photograph. "This is Kwesi," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He was a good man, too good for the world he lived in." Kamara's heart pounded. "Why have you never told me about him? Or about Nyota?" Mama Zuri handed the photograph back, her expression unreadable. "Some stories are better left untold, child. They can do more harm than good." "But I need to understand," Kamara pleaded. Mama Zuri stood, brushing the dirt from her hands. "If you truly want to understand," she said, her voice steady, "you'll have to go to Nyota yourself." Kamara's stomach twisted with both fear and excitement. For the first time, her grandmother had acknowledged the past and given her a path to uncover it. The name Nyota lingered in Kamara's mind like a drumbeat, growing louder with each passing day. She couldn't shake the feeling that the answers she sought were waiting for her there. Though Mama Zuri hadn't spoken of it again, Kamara knew what she had to do. She went to the market and found Musa, an old man known for his knowledge of the surrounding villages. His stall was cluttered with carved walking sticks and animal traps, his sharp eyes scanning the busy square. When Kamara mentioned Nyota, Musa's face grew serious. "Nyota?" he repeated, his voice low. "That's a name people don't speak of lightly. It's a place of shadows, child." "I have to go," Kamara said firmly. "I need to know what happened there." Musa studied her for a moment before nodding. "If you're sure, I'll take you. But know this, the past has teeth. It doesn't let go easily." The journey began at dawn. They travelled on foot, weaving through narrow forest trails and rocky hillsides. Along the way, Musa told stories of villages abandoned famine, of wars fought over water, of bandits who preyed on the weak. After 2 long days, they arrived at the outskirts of Nyota. Kamara felt a chill as she stepped into the village. The huts were crumbling, their thatched roofs caved in. Grass and weeds grew unchecked, swallowing the once red pathways. The air was thick with an eerie silence, as if the land itself mourned. "This is Nyota," Musa said, his voice heavy, "the village that fell to betrayal." Kamara's heart sank. The letters had spoken of hope, love, and courage, but the Nyota before her was a shell of those promises. What had gone so wrong? As Kamara walked through the village, she felt as though the ghosts of Nyota were watching her. The air was thick with memories, but they weren't hers. The crumbling huts and overgrown paths told a story of abandonment and pain. In the centre of the village stood a well, its stone walls cracked and covered in moss. Around it were small stone markers, graves etched with names. Kamara knelt beside one of the markers and traced her fingers over the carved letters. Her breath caught as she read the name, Amara. Her hands trembled. Amara was the name from the letters, the name Kwesi had written to with such love. But how could this be? Mama Zuri was alive. Why would her name be on a grave? Musa approached, his expression grim. "This village," he said, "was betrayed from within. When the famine worsened, some of the villagers made a deal with the bandits. They opened the gates, thinking they could save themselves, but the bandits took everything, and everyone." Kamara's chest tightened. "Who betrayed them?" she asked. Musa shook his head. "No one knows for certain, but your grandmother was one of the few who survived." The weight of his words settled heavily on Kamara's shoulders. As she explored further, she found a larger hut near the edge of the village. Inside, dusty papers lay scattered across the floor. Among them was a letter addressed to Amara, written in a shaky hand. "Amara, the elders have made their decision. The gates will open tonight. I cannot stop what is about to happen. Protect yourself. Protect our child. Forgive me for what I must do. Kwesi." Kamara's head spun. Protect our child? Could Kwesi have been writing about Mama Zuri? The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but they revealed a picture far more complex and painful than Kamara had imagined. She clenched the letter tightly. Whatever happened in Nyota, she would not leave until she uncovered the full truth. Kamara stood in the doorway of the abandoned hut, clutching the letter in her hands. The words echoed in her mind. Protect our child. It felt like a piece of her identity had shifted, as though the ground beneath her had been replaced with something unsteady and unfamiliar. Musa waited outside, his expression grim but patient. Kamara emerged, holding the letter as if it were a fragile treasure. "What happened to the people who survived?" she asked. "They scattered," Musa replied. "Some went to other villages, others disappeared into the forests, but most didn't survive at all." "And Mama Zuri?" Kamara pressed. Musa sighed, his gaze drifting toward the horizon. She was one of the lucky ones, if you can call it that. But survival often comes with a price. Kamara turned back to the hut, her mind racing. The letter hinted at a betrayal orchestrated by the village elders, but it was clear Kwesi had known about it. And yet, he had asked Amara to protect herself. What had he meant? Was his sacrifice the reason Mama Zuri had lived? As they walked through the rest of Nyota, Kamara's eyes caught another marker near the well. This one bore Kwesi's name. Her heart ached as she knelt beside it, tracing the letters. She thought of the man in the letters, brave and steadfast, willing to risk everything for the people he loved. And yet, here he lay, buried in a forgotten village, his story nearly lost. Kamara whispered a silent promise to the marker. I won't let your story end here. When Kamara returned to Umoja, she carried the letters, photographs, and pieces of Nyota's story with her. Her mind swirled with questions, but she knew there was only one person who could answer them. Mama Zuri was sitting under the baobab tree, her hands idle for once. She looked up as Kamara approached, her sharp eyes softening as she saw the expression on her granddaughter's face. Without a word, Kamara sat beside her and handed her the letter from Kwesi. Mama Zuri took it, her hands trembling slightly. She read it silently, her lips pressing into a thin line. When she finally looked up, her eyes were brimming with tears. You went to Nyota, she said softly. Kamara nodded. I had to. I needed to know the truth. Mama Zuri sighed deeply, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Then, you know what happened. The betrayal, the destruction, the lives lost. I know some of it, Kamara replied, but not all. Why didn't you ever tell me? Why did you keep it hidden? Mama Zuri closed her eyes for a long moment before speaking. Because some truths are too heavy to carry alone. I wanted to protect you from the pain, the shame. I thought if I buried it deep enough, it would stay buried. Kamara's voice wavered as she asked the question that had been haunting her. Was Kwesi my grandfather? Mama Zuri's lips trembled as she nodded. Yes, he was your grandfather. He was the love of my life. Kamara's breath caught, tears spilling down her cheeks. And the betrayal. Did you know it was coming? Mama Zuri's voice broke as she spoke. I knew, but I couldn't stop it. The elders made their deal with the bandits, and Kwesi, he tried to protect us. He fought until his last breath. She paused, her hands gripping the letter tightly. He told me to leave, to save myself and the child I carried. And I did. But I've carried the weight of that decision every day since. Kamara reached for her grandmother's hand, her heart aching for the pain she had endured. You survived, Kamara said gently, and because of that, I'm here. His story didn't end with Nyota, Mama. It lives on in us. In the days that followed, Kamara and Mama Zuri spent hours piecing together the fragments of Nyota's story. Mama Zuri spoke of the dry season that had gripped the village, the desperation that had driven the elders to make their fateful decision, and the courage of Kwesi and his companions, who stood against the bandits. She spoke of the night the gates were opened, of the chaos and destruction that followed. I wanted to stay, Mama Zuri said, her voice breaking, but Kwesi made me promise to leave. He knew I couldn't save him, but he believed I could save our child. I ran, Kamara. I ran and didn't look back. Kamara listened intently, her heart heavy with both sorrow and admiration. You did what you had to do, she said. You honoured his wish, and now it's up to us to honour his memory. Together, they organised the letters, photographs, and pieces of the past into a small wooden box. Mama Zuri placed the box in Kamara's hands. "This is yours now," she said. It's your story too." Kamara felt the weight of the box and the legacy it carried. She knew she couldn't change the past, but she could ensure that the lessons it held would not be forgotten. The next time Kamara sat under the baobab tree, she wasn't alone. Children from the village gathered around her, their faces alight with curiosity. In her hands was one of the letters, its words now familiar and cherished. "This is a story about a man named Kwesi," Kamara began, her voice steady. "He was brave and strong, and he fought for what he believed in." As she spoke, she saw the children's eyes widen with wonder. She told them of Nyota, of its struggles and its courage, of love and betrayal, and of the sacrifices that had shaped her family's history. When she finished, one of the children asked, "Is it a true story?" Kamara smiled, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "Yes," she said softly, "and it's a story we must never forget." As Kamara finished telling the story of Nyota and her family's legacy, she looked at the children gathered around her. Their eyes sparkled with wonder and a hint of sadness. The weight of the story was not lost on them, and Kamara felt a sense of fulfillment knowing that the lessons of the past would live on. She stood, holding the small wooden box of letters close to her chest, and addressed them with a smile. "This story isn't just mine. It's for all of us. It's a reminder that even in the hardest times, love and courage can guide us through. Never forget that the choices we make today shape the stories we leave behind tomorrow." Kamara's story doesn't end here, and neither does ours. What did you think of her journey to uncover her grandmother's past? Were you moved by the lessons of love, sacrifice, and resilience? If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales filled with mystery, heart, and African heritage, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps keep these incredible stories alive. We'd also love to hear from you. Share your thoughts about Kamara's journey in the comments below. What would you have done in her place? How do you think the past shapes the present? Let's keep the conversation going and celebrate the richness of our shared history. Hit the like button, subscribe for more stories, and don't forget to share this video with your friends and family. Together, let's keep these powerful stories alive for generations to come.